You stand in the shadowed chambers of the Persian king's private quarters, the air thick with the metallic tang of blood and the acrid stench of burning flesh, as a young captive boy screams in agony, while eunuch-makers crush his testicles with crude stones, ensuring he will never threaten the sanctity of the royal women, his cries echoing off the stone walls as the knife descends to sever what remains, transforming him into a guardian of secrets that would horrify the empire's subjects if ever revealed. This is no mere tale of ancient decorum, but the brutal entry into the hidden world of the Achaemenid Persian harems, where kings like Xerxes and Darius maintained vast collections of concubines not just for pleasure, but as instruments of power, their bodies subjected to rituals of possession that blurred the lines between desire and domination, with incestuous unions among royalty preserving divine bloodlines through brother-sister marriages that Greek historians like Herodotus decried as monstrous, yet which the Persians themselves viewed as sacred necessities to maintain the purity of their god-kings. Shifting from this visceral immersion, we uncover the authoritative historical record, drawing from the accounts of Herodotus, Xenophon, and Plutarch, who documented the Persian Empire's harem practices with a mixture of fascination and revulsion, revealing how these secluded domains were not idyllic retreats but arenas of psychological torment, anatomical mutilation, and political intrigue, where women captured in war or selected for their beauty endured lifelong imprisonment, their fertility harnessed to produce heirs while their autonomy was eradicated. Before diving into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these ancient stories together from different parts of the world, connected across time and space by our shared curiosity about the past. The shocking revelations begin with the very foundation of the harem system in the Achaemenid Empire, established under Cyrus the Great and expanded by his successors, where kings amassed hundreds of concubines, not merely for carnal satisfaction, but as symbols of conquest and divine favor, each woman a trophy from subjugated lands, forced into sexual servitude that often commenced with ritual deflowering ceremonies described by Xenophon in his Cyropaedia as methodical assertions of royal dominance, the women's bodies anointed with oils scented of myrrh and frankincense to mask the underlying coercion, their virginity inspected by court physicians using invasive probes that left them psychologically scarred before the king even approached. Herodotus, in his histories, recounts with morbid detail how Persian monarchs like Cambyses II engaged in incestuous marriages with their own sisters, such as Atossa and Roxanne, justifying these unions as means to keep the royal blood untainted by lesser lineages, a practice that led to genetic abnormalities and festering resentments within the palace walls, where the queen's sisters wielded influence over their brother husbands, yet suffered the grotesque intimacies of familial bonds twisted into erotic obligations, their pregnancies fraught with the horrors of potential deformities that court records, though sanitized, hint at through veiled references to monstrous births suppressed from public knowledge. Plutarch, in his Life of Artaxerxes, elaborates on similar taboos, describing how Artaxerxes II married his daughter Atossa, an act that shocked even the Persian nobility, leading to whispered accusations of divine retribution manifested in the king's later psychological deterioration, his paranoia escalating as he imagined plots from within his own bloodline, the harem becoming a breeding ground for intrigue where daughters turned wives navigated the perilous intersection of filial duty and sexual subjugation, their bodies bearing the marks of royal possession in ways that modern psychology would diagnose as profound trauma. Eunuchs formed the grotesque backbone of this system, castrated males whose mutilated anatomies ensured loyalty devoid of sexual threat, with Herodotus detailing the castration process as a barbaric ritual performed on captive boys from conquered territories like Ethiopia and Assyria, their genitals crushed between heated stones or sliced with obsidian blades. the wounds cauterized with boiling oil to prevent fatal hemorrhage, leaving survivors with high-pitched voices, obesity from hormonal imbalances, and a lifetime of urinary complications that turned their existence into one of constant, putrid discomfort. Yet these anatomical monstrosities rose to positions of immense power, whispering secrets into the king's ear while guarding the women with fanatical devotion. Xenophon notes in his Anabasis how these eunuchs not only supervised the harems, but participated in homoerotic practices tolerated within the Persian court, where male-male relations served as outlets for desires unfulfilled by the rigid hierarchies of the women's quarters. Young pages and guards engaging in acts that Greek observers found effeminate and decadent, yet which were integral to the social fabric, blending mentorship with physical intimacy in ways that blurred boundaries, fostering alliances sealed through shared vulnerabilities. The selection of concubines involved shocking invasions of privacy, as detailed in ancient inscriptions and Greek accounts, where royal agents scoured the empire for virgins of exceptional beauty, subjecting them to humiliating examinations where their hymens were probed, their breasts measured for symmetry, and their scent evaluated for natural allure. Those deemed worthy torn from their families and transported to Persepolis or Susa, where they underwent training in erotic arts drawn from Babylonian and Egyptian traditions, learning positions and techniques to maximize the king's pleasure. Their bodies conditioned through diets rich in aphrodisiacs like saffron and pistachios to enhance fertility and responsiveness. Punishments for infidelity within the harem were horrifically inventive. Herodotus, describing how suspected adulteresses were subjected to mutilations that targeted their femininity, noses slit, ears cropped, and breasts scarred with hot irons, or worse, buried alive in sand up to their necks, and left for insects to devour, their screams a deterrent echoing through the palace, while male accomplices faced scaphism, confined in boats slathered with honey to attract swarms that feasted on their flesh over days of agonizing decay, the putrid stench serving as a sensory warning to all. Contemporary observer accounts, such as those from Ctesias, the Greek physician at the Persian court, preserved in fragments by Photius, reveal the medical abnormalities plaguing harem inhabitants, from venereal diseases spread through the king's promiscuity, manifesting as festering sores and debilitating fevers, to postpartum hemorrhages that claimed the lives of countless concubines, their bodies discarded like spent vessels once they failed to produce healthy heirs, the palace physicians, employing crude remedies like laudanum-laced potions to dull the pain, yet often exacerbating the suffering through ignorance of anatomy. Hidden suffering extended to the psychological realm, where women isolated from the world developed what we might term Stockholm Syndrome, bonding with their captors out of necessity, yet harboring deep-seated resentments that occasionally erupted into assassinations, as in the case of Persides, mother of Artaxerxes II, who poisoned rivals with toxin-laced feathers, her actions driven by the festering jealousy born of sharing her son-king with a multitude of others, the harem's air thick with the mingled scents of perfume and paranoia. Graphic details censored from mainstream accounts include the ritualistic elements of sexual encounters, where kings invoked Ahura Mazda in orgiastic ceremonies blending divinity with debauchery, concubines adorned in golden chains symbolizing their bondage, their bodies painted with henna patterns depicting fertility gods, forced to perform in groups under the watchful eyes of eunuchs who ensured compliance through threats of whipping, the scenes devolving into frenzies that left participants bruised and psychologically shattered. Escalating revelations uncover the collateral damage to supporting characters, such as the reluctant observers, court physicians like Ctesias who documented the horrors in private journals, their hands stained with the blood of botched castrations and failed abortions, or servants who witnessed the intimate failures of kings afflicted with impotence from overindulgence, resorting to mechanical aids fashioned from ivory and silk to simulate virility, their frustrations vented through increased brutality toward the women. Victims included spouses and children, legitimate queens like Atossa, suffering the humiliation of sharing their husbands with inferiors, their fertility questioned in public rituals that exposed them to ridicule, while offspring born of concubines faced uncertain statuses, often euthanized if deformed from inbreeding. The palace grounds rumored to conceal mass graves of such unfortunate progeny, hidden from historical scrutiny. The political consequences of these private dysfunctions rippled through the empire. As seen in Xerxes' harem intrigues that distracted him from military campaigns, his obsession with the beautiful Jewish captive Esther, immortalized in biblical accounts, leading to purges that weakened his court, the king's paranoia about plots from within the women's quarters prompting executions that depleted loyal advisors, ultimately contributing to the empire's vulnerabilities exploited by Alexander the Great. Social impacts were profound, with the harem system reinforcing patriarchal structures across Persian society, where lesser nobles emulated the king by maintaining smaller versions, perpetuating cycles of abuse that stifled female agency. The hidden truths of which only surfaced in Greek polemics aimed at portraying Persians as barbaric, yet grounded in kernels of observed reality. As conditions worsened over time, kings like Darius III faced escalating dysfunctions, their harems swollen with captives from failing wars, leading to outbreaks of diseases that ravaged the secluded populations, syphilis-like ailments causing neurological decay, rendering once mighty rulers into gibbering shadows, dependent on eunuchs for basic functions. Desperate measures included importing foreign healers who introduced experimental treatments, such as mercury vapors that induced madness, or surgical interventions on concubines to enhance fertility, crude hysterectomies performed without anesthesia, the women's screams suppressed with opium, their recoveries marked by chronic pain and infertility that defeated the purpose. Paranoia and isolation intensified, kings retreating deeper into the harem's labyrinthine corridors, surrounded by sycophants who fed their delusions, the air heavy with incense to cover the odors of decay from untreated wounds, the psychological breakdown manifesting in tyrannical edicts that further alienated the nobility. The final collapse came with Alexander's conquest, his troops breaching the harems of Persepolis, discovering scenes of opulence masking horror, women self-mutilating to avoid capture, eunuchs fighting to the death with concealed daggers, the king's last concubines poisoned to prevent violation, the empire's secrets spilling out in a torrent of blood and revelation. Death scenes were particularly macabre, as with Cambyses' self-inflicted wound festering into gangrene, his incestuous unions blamed by courtiers for divine curse, or Xerxes' assassination by a eunuch conspirator, his body discovered amid the silken sheets stained with the evidence of his final indulgences. Autopsies, though informal, revealed the toll. Organs riddled with parasites from unsanitary practices, bones weakened by sedentary excess. The aftermath exposing cover-ups where historians like the royal scribes altered records to sanitize the dysfunctions, portraying kings as paragons while burying the truth. Preserved evidence lingers in archaeological finds. Palace reliefs at Persepolis depicting processions of tribute-bearers, including women. Clay tablets recording distributions of rations to harem inmates. And Greek texts that, despite bias, corroborate the scale of the system. Returning to that opening chamber, now transformed by our knowledge, you no longer merely witness the boy's agony, but understand it as the cornerstone of a system where power corrupted the most intimate human bonds, the sense of blood and fire symbolizing the empire's self-consuming flame, a haunting reminder that beneath the grandeur of history lie the visceral horrors of unchecked authority. These dynamics persist in modern guises, where powerful figures conceal personal failings that influence global events. The lessons of Persian harems urging us to scrutinize the private lives behind public facades, ending with the indelible image of a eunuch's scarred groin, a testament to the grotesque sacrifices demanded by empires built on taboo desires.